What's up, automotive world? Welcome back to the channel. And boy, do I have a story for you today that perfectly captures the bizarre reality of modern car manufacturing. We're talking about Dodge. Yes, Dodge, recalling over 8,000 Charger EVs because they're too quiet. I'm not making this up, folks. In a world where we've spent decades trying to make cars quieter, Dodge has managed to build electric Chargers that are so silent, they're actually illegal to drive. This is the kind of automotive irony you just can't make up. So grab your coffee, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive into one of the most fascinating recalls in automotive history. Here's the deal. We're talking about 8,390 2024 to 2025 Charger Daytona models that rolled off the production line between April 30th, 2024 and March 18th, 2025. That's nearly 10 months of production affected by this issue. These vehicles were built with exterior amplifiers that might have an incomplete software upload, which may prevent the emission of exterior sound. Think about that for a second. Almost 8,400 muscle cars that are too quiet for their own good. That's not a small batch problem. That's a systematic manufacturing oversight that affects a significant portion of early Charger EV production. Now here's where it gets really interesting. The Charger Daytona actually has two separate sound systems, and most people don't realize this. There's the famous Fratsonic chambered exhaust, those speakers mounted in the rear bumper that replicate the sound of a Rumble V8 engine. That's the system everyone talks about, the one that makes headlines. But there's also a completely separate federally required pedestrian warning system that's supposed to work independently. Even with the Fratsonic system switched off, the Charger is still legally required to make a sound of some kind at lower speeds. It's this second system that's malfunctioning due to incomplete software uploads. This shows just how complex modern EVs have become. Multiple sound systems, each with different purposes, all requiring proper software integration to function correctly. What's fascinating is how Dodge handled this situation. The automaker began investigating the problem on April 17th, meeting with engineers and the supplier while reviewing warranty data, field records, and customer assistance records. They didn't wait for customer complaints to pile up or for NHTSA to come knocking. They proactively identified the issue. It took them until June 6th to decide on a voluntary recall, which means they spent nearly 2 months thoroughly investigating the scope and severity of the problem. That's actually pretty impressive corporate responsibility in today's fast-moving automotive world. Dodge began notifying affected owners around July 10th that their vehicles might fail to comply with federal motor vehicle safety standards. The fix? The dealer will inspect the vehicle and update the amplifier software if it fails to make a sound. This is actually one of the simpler recalls you'll ever see. No parts replacement, no major mechanical work, just a software update that probably takes 30 minutes. But until that fix is complete, these vehicles are technically non-compliant with federal safety standards. Let's talk about why this matters beyond just regulatory compliance. Electric vehicles are naturally much quieter than combustion-powered cars, and that silence creates genuine safety hazards. Federal law requires EVs to emit sound specifically for pedestrians and other drivers who rely on audio cues to detect approaching vehicles. This isn't just bureaucratic red tape. Studies show that silent electric vehicles pose real risks to pedestrians, especially visually impaired individuals, children, and elderly people who depend on hearing cars approach. The irony is thick here. Dodge, a brand synonymous with loud, aggressive muscle cars, accidentally built vehicles that were too quiet for safety. This recall highlights a challenge every EV manufacturer faces. How do you make a naturally quiet vehicle loud enough to be safe without being annoying? Some manufacturers go minimalistic with simple beeps or chimes. Others, like Dodge, embrace the opportunity to create signature sounds that reflect their brand identity. The Charger Daytona's approach is uniquely Dodge. If you're going to make artificial noise, make it loud and make it proud. But even with that distinctive Fratsonic system, the basic pedestrian warning sounds still need to function independently and correctly. What this recall really demonstrates is how software-dependent modern vehicles have become. Cars today are essentially computers on wheels. And just like your laptop or smartphone, they can have software bugs, incomplete installations, or corrupted files. The fact that 8,390 vehicles left the factory with incomplete software upload shows just how complex the integration process has become. You've got multiple systems: the Sonic entertainment system, the federally required warning system, the amplifiers, and all the software tying them together. When any one element fails, it can create a safety issue. The good news is that this is a relatively simple fix: a software update that brings the exterior amplifiers up to proper functionality. But it raises bigger questions about quality control in our increasingly digital automotive world. As EVs become more mainstream and sound systems become more sophisticated, we're likely to see more recalls related to software integration and audio system functionality. The technology exists to make these systems smarter. Imagine AI-powered sound systems that automatically adjust based on ambient noise levels and pedestrian density. This recall represents both a failure and a success. It's a failure in quality control. Nearly 8,400 vehicles shouldn't have left the factory with incomplete software. But it's also a success in corporate responsibility. Dodge identified the problem, investigated thoroughly, and took voluntary action to fix it. Most importantly, it shows the ongoing challenges of electrifying iconic brands like Dodge. How do you maintain muscle car attitude while adapting to electric powertrains and federal safety regulations? The answer seems to be embracing the artificial nature of EV sounds and making them distinctly yours, but making sure they actually work. For affected owners, get that software update as soon as possible. It's not just about legal compliance. It's about keeping everyone on the road safe. What do you think about EVs being required to make artificial noise? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, and subscribe for more automotive deep dives.